Alright, this is continued from the previous video. 8.3 graphing f of x equals x squared plus bx plus c part 2. So this is just the second part of this video. So now we'll be working on finding maximum and minimum values. So you might have already noticed that when we have our graphs, there is a maximum and a minimum. And how will we know whether our graph is going to have a max or a min? That's what we're going to find out today. So just take a look at this core concept, write it down, make sure to learn this. Okay, so when you have ax squared, ax squared plus bx plus c, if this right here is less than 0, then you have a maximum. If you have a that is greater than 0, then you have a minimum. And all that's telling you is the smallest number that it could go to, or the biggest number that it could go to. Because since this one's going upwards, there's never going to be a maximum for this. It's infinity. And since this one is forever going down, that means this one's never going to have a specific minimum. It's always going to be in negative infinity. So we're going to figure out how to figure out if it has a max or min, and how to know what the exact number is. So keep this in mind right here. This will be important to know. Okay, so let's try an example. So let's say if you have f of x is equal to negative 4x squared minus 24x minus 19. Okay, so before we start this, let me reiterate one more thing. Remember, the maximum and minimum is going to be our vertex. It's the same thing as a vertex, and it's the same exact process that we've been using to figure out what our vertex is for each equation. But now we're going to figure out if that vertex is a maximum or a minimum. So it's the same exact process that we've already been using. Okay, so for this equation, does this equation have a maximum or a minimum, and figure out what the value is? So let's figure out which number do we need to figure out whether we have a maximum or a minimum. Well, let's go ahead. I'll give you some options. We have A, B, and C. Which one will we need to find our vertex or our maximum minimum? We'll need this one. We'll need our A. So our A is equal to negative 4. So how can we use information? Well, we learned here that if A was less than 0, we'd have a maximum, and if A was greater than 0, we'd have a minimum. So let's take a look at negative 4. Is negative 4 greater than 0 or less than 0? Negative 4 is less than 0. So that would fall into this one. So that means we're going to have a maximum. Maximum because A is less than 0, right? Negative 4 is less than 0. So that means our graph is going to look something like this then. This is going to be our maximum. So we want to figure out what this exact point is. So to find that, we use the same process as the axis of symmetry and vertex. So we can use the same formula we've been using. Negative b over 2a. What is our b again? Negative 24. So let's plug that in. Remember to keep the negative in front. And we need to bring this 2. And our a is negative 4. So we're going to plug that in. So we have negative 24 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. And this leaves us with, if we divide negative 24 by negative 8, we're left with negative 3. And remember, negative divided by a negative is positive. So that means these two become positive, but we still have this negative out front, in the front right here. So we keep it, let me do this in a different color actually. So that means we keep this. So now that we know that our axis of symmetry, which is right here, let me write this down, is negative 3, we can plug it back into our original equation. This one right here. And what is our f of x? Instead of writing f of x, we can write negative 3. Go ahead and try to write it by yourself before I do it. All right, let's go ahead and solve this. Negative 3 squared is 9. And now we have negative 24 times negative 3. Let me get my calculator real quick. That is negative 24 times negative 3 is positive 72. Remember, a negative times a negative is positive. Minus 19. And then negative 4 times 9 is negative 36. Oh, I see what I did here. Let me erase this real quick. That was from the previous problem. So negative 36 plus 72 minus 19. And when we add this all up, we're left with just 17. So remember, f of x is the same thing as what? It's the same thing as y. Let me see here. So this is our y. Y is equal to 17. So how can we use 17 then? Well, let's take a look at our old problem right here. Notice that our x over here is negative 3. Negative 3 is x, and we have 17 right here. So we have negative 3 comma 17 as our vertex. So this vertex is also going to be our max value. Our max value, this vertex can help us figure out our max value. So this is going to be our maximum. Let me get some space over here. And that's how you would figure out your minimum and maximum. So remember, it's the same exact process as a vertex. Now you're going to have to be able to look at it, an equation, and figure out, depending on what the a is equal to, whether it's a max or min.